Grab some popcorn, turn off the lights, and make sure your doors are locked. Because what you're about to hear is real, disturbing, and might be closer than you think. Welcome to Frozen Clues, where every case reveals the darkest corners of the human mind. Are you ready to dive into the mystery? Then let's begin. Picture this. You're on a family vacation in a beautiful Portuguese resort town. The sun is setting, the ocean breeze is perfect, and you've just put your 3 young children to bed. You decide to have dinner at a restaurant just 50 meters away from your apartment, checking on the kids every 30 minutes. What could possibly go wrong? For Kate and Gary McCann, this seemingly innocent decision would change their lives forever and spark one of the most controversial missing person cases in modern history. But what really happened on that fateful night in May 2007? And why, after more than 16 years, do we still have more questions than answers? Today, we're diving deep into the disappearance of 3-year-old Madeleine McCann, a case that has divided public opinion, spawned countless theories, and consumed millions of dollars in investigation costs. This is a story where nothing is quite what it seems, where every lead has led to more mysteries, and where the truth remains as elusive as ever. Kate and Gary McCann were living what many would consider an ideal life in 2007, both successful. Doctors from Leicestershire, England, they had 3 beautiful children. Madeleine, who was nearly 4 years old, and 2-year-old twins, Sean and Amelie. Madeleine was described as a bright, energetic child with distinctive eyes. She had a rare condition called coloboma, where part of the iris was missing, creating a unique black streak in her right eye. The McCanns were part of a close-knit group of friends, all medical professionals, who had been planning a group vacation for months. They chose Praia da Luz, a quiet resort town in Portugal's Algarve region, known for its beautiful beaches and family-friendly atmosphere. The Ocean Club Resort seemed perfect. It offered kids' clubs, tennis courts, and a relaxed environment where families could unwind. On April 28, 2007, the McCann family arrived at the Mark Warner Ocean Club Resort in Praia da Luz. They were staying in apartment 5A, a ground floor unit that would later become the center of international attention. The apartment had a front door that opened onto the resort's main walkway, and a back door that led to a small patio overlooking the pool area and the tapas restaurant where the adults planned to dine each evening. For the first few days, everything went according to plan. The children attended the resort's kids club during the day, while the adults played tennis and relaxed. In the evenings, after putting the children to bed, the group of 9 adults would meet at the tapas restaurant for dinner. They developed a routine of checking on their sleeping children every 20 to 30 minutes by walking the short distance back to their apartments. But was this routine as safe as they believed? The apartment doors were unlocked, making it easy for parents to check on their children. However, this also meant that anyone could potentially enter these rooms. The McCanns later stated that they felt the resort was safe and that their checking routine was adequate. But hindsight would prove them tragically wrong. May 3rd, 2007 started like any other day of their vacation. Madeleine attended the kids' club, played by the pool, and seemed happy and content. That afternoon, she spent time with her father at the tennis courts and later enjoyed some family time at the beach. Kate McCann would later recall that Madeleine had been particularly affectionate that day, wanting extra cuddles and attention. Around 6 p.m., Kate gave the children their baths and put them to bed in the apartment. Madeleine was sleeping in a single bed near the window, while the twins were in travel cots nearby. The parents left through the back patio door, leaving it unlocked for easy access during their dinner checks. They could see the apartment from their dinner table, though not directly into the children's bedroom. At approximately 8:30 p.m., Gary McCann made the first check of the evening. He entered through the unlocked patio door and looked into the children's bedroom. All three children were sleeping peacefully. He noticed that Madeleine's bedroom door, which they had left slightly ajar, was now open wider, but he didn't think much of it at the time. Perhaps Madeleine had gotten up to use the bathroom, or maybe the door had been blown open by a breeze. Gary returned to the restaurant and continued dinner with his friends. Around 9:05 p.m., Matthew Oldfield, one of the other parents in the group, offered to check on the McCann children along with his own. He listened at the door of apartment 5A and heard no sounds of distress, so he didn't enter the room. This decision would later become a crucial point in the timeline of events, but it was at 10 p.m. when Kate McCann made the discovery that would change everything. She walked back to apartment 5A to check on the children before the group's planned departure from the restaurant. What she found when she entered the apartment would haunt her forever. The first thing Kate noticed was that the children's bedroom door was completely open, much wider than they had left it. As she approached the room, she could see the twins sleeping in their cots, but Madeleine's bed was empty. Kate's heart began to race as she searched the small bedroom, checking behind the curtains and under the bed. Where was Madeleine? She quickly searched the rest of the apartment, the bathroom, the living room, even the small kitchen. Madeleine was nowhere to be found. Even more disturbing, Kate noticed that the window in the children's bedroom was open, and the external shutter had been forced up from the outside. Someone had clearly entered the room and taken her daughter. Kate ran back to the restaurant, screaming the words that would echo around the world. "They've taken her! They've taken her! Madeleine's gone!" What happened next would set in motion one of the largest missing person investigations in history, but it would also mark the beginning of a series of controversies, accusations, and theories that continue to this day. The question that haunted everyone was simple yet devastating. In a resort full of people, just meters away from where her parents were dining, how could a 3-year-old girl simply vanish without a trace? The immediate response to Madeleine's disappearance was chaotic but swift. Resort staff, other guests, and local police launched an immediate search of the surrounding area. The Guarda Nacional Republicana, Portugal's police force, arrived. The scene within 15 minutes of being called. But would this quick response be enough? Or were crucial early hours already being lost? What the investigators found at the scene would become both crucial evidence and a source of endless debate. The bedroom window that had been closed when the children were put to bed was now open, with the external metal shutter raised. There were no signs of forced entry through the front or back doors of the apartment, suggesting that whoever took Madeleine had either used an unlocked door or climbed through the window. But here's where things get complicated. The window was quite high off the ground on the outside, making it difficult for someone to climb through while carrying a sleeping child. Additionally, there were no fingerprints found on the window frame or shutter, despite the fact that raising the metal shutter would have required significant force and contact with the metal surface. The Portuguese police initially treated the case as a kidnapping, but their investigation methods would later come under intense scrutiny. The crime scene was not immediately secured, allowing resort guests and staff to walk through the apartment. Crucial forensic evidence may have been compromised in those first few hours. Was this a critical oversight that would haunt the investigation? Or were the Portuguese authorities following standard procedure for what they initially believed was a missing child case? Within hours of the disappearance, the story had captured international attention. The image of blonde, blue-eyed Madeleine with her distinctive eye marking was broadcast around the world. The McCann family, with their articulate, middle-class background and medical credentials, became the faces of every parent's worst nightmare. But this intense media attention would prove to be both a blessing and a curse. The initial investigation focused on the possibility of abduction by a stranger. Witnesses reported seeing suspicious individuals in the area around the time of Madeleine's disappearance. One couple claimed to have seen a man carrying a young child away from the resort around 9:15 p.m. between the last confirmed sighting of Madeleine and the discovery of her disappearance. But as the investigation progressed, the focus began to shift in an unexpected and controversial direction. 4 months after Madeleine's disappearance, Portuguese police made a shocking announcement. Kate and Gary McCann were now considered official suspects in their daughter's disappearance. The reasons for this dramatic shift were complex and controversial. Portuguese investigators claimed that forensic evidence found in the apartment and in the McCann's rental car suggested that Madeleine had died in the apartment and that her body had been moved. Specifically, British sniffer dogs trained to detect human blood and cadaver scent allegedly reacted positively to areas in the apartment and the rental car that the McCanns had rented 25 days after Madeleine's disappearance. This development sent shockwaves around the world. How could loving parents be suspected of involvement in their own daughter's disappearance? The Portuguese police theory suggested that Madeleine had died accidentally in the apartment, possibly from a fall or medication overdose, and that her parents had disposed of her body to avoid blame and protect their careers. The McCanns vehemently denied these allegations, maintaining their innocence and continuing their search for their daughter. They pointed out numerous problems with the Portuguese theory. How could they have disposed of a body while being constantly watched by media and friends? Why would they launch such a public campaign to find Madeleine if they knew she was dead? And how could forensic evidence be reliable when the crime scene had been contaminated? The case became even more complicated when the Portuguese investigation was officially closed in July 2008, with prosecutors stating there was insufficient evidence to charge anyone. The McCann suspect status was lifted, but the damage to their reputation had been done. Public opinion was sharply divided. Were they grieving parents who had been wrongly accused? Or were they somehow involved in their daughter's disappearance? But the story was far from over. In 2011, the case took another dramatic turn when Scotland Yard announced they were launching their own investigation, called Operation Grange. The British police reviewed all the evidence with fresh eyes and came to different conclusions than their Portuguese counterparts. The British investigation identified over 600 people of interest and developed new theories about what might have happened. They focused on the possibility of a burglary gone wrong, suggesting that someone may have broken into the apartment to steal from tourists and been surprised by Madeleine's presence. In this scenario, the intruder may have taken Madeleine to prevent her from identifying them. Operation Grange also revealed that there had been a significant number of break-ins in the Praia da Luz area in the months leading up to Madeleine's disappearance. Many of these involve people entering holiday apartments through windows and patio doors. Could Madeleine have simply been in the wrong place at the wrong time? The British investigation brought new hope to the McCann family, but it also raised troubling questions about the original Portuguese investigation. If the British police could identify so many new leads and persons of interest, what had been missed in the first crucial months after Madeleine's disappearance? In 2020, the case took yet another dramatic turn when German prosecutor Christian Wolters announced that they had identified a suspect in Madeleine's disappearance. The suspect was Christian Bruckner, a German citizen with a history of serious offenses against children, who had been living in the Praia da Luz area at the time of Madeleine's disappearance. Bruckner had previously been convicted of offenses in Portugal and Germany. Perhaps most significantly, he had been living in a farmhouse just outside Praia da Luz and was known to break into hotel rooms and holiday apartments in the area. Phone records showed that he had received a call on his mobile phone in Praia da Luz on the night of Madeleine's disappearance, placing him in the immediate area at the crucial time. German prosecutors stated they believed Madeleine was dead and that they had evidence linking Bruckner to her disappearance, though they have been careful not to reveal the full extent of their evidence while the investigation continues. This development brought new hope that the case might finally be solved, but also raised the heartbreaking possibility that Madeleine had not survived her ordeal. Today, more than 16 years after that fateful night in Praia da Luz, the case remains officially unsolved. The German investigation into Christian Bruckner continues, but no charges have been filed. The McCann family continues to search for answers, never giving up hope that they might one day learn the truth about what happened to their daughter. The case has cost millions in investigation expenses, generated countless conspiracy theories, and divided public opinion like few cases in recent memory. It has raised important questions about child safety, media coverage of missing person cases, and international cooperation in criminal investigations. But behind all the theories, investigations, and media coverage lies a simple, heartbreaking truth. A little girl disappeared from her bed while her parents were having dinner just meters away. And despite one of the largest missing person investigations in history, we still don't know exactly what happened to her. Was Madeleine McCann the victim of a random crime of opportunity? Was she taken by someone who had been watching the family and planning an abduction? Or is the truth something entirely different that we haven't yet considered? The answers to these questions remain as elusive today as they were on that night in May 2007, when Kate McCann discovered her daughter's empty bed. What we do know is that somewhere out there, the truth about Madeleine McCann's disappearance exists. Whether that truth will ever come to light remains one of the greatest mysteries of our time. Until then, the search continues, the questions persist, and a family lives with the unimaginable pain of not knowing what happened to their little girl. The case of Madeleine McCann reminds us that in our modern connected world, it's still possible for someone to simply vanish without a trace. It shows us how quickly a perfect family vacation can turn into a parent's worst nightmare, and how a single moment can change everything forever. Perhaps one day, we'll have the answers we've been searching for. Until then, the mystery of what happened to Madeleine McCann on that quiet night in Portugal continues to haunt us all.